Hello everyone, my name is Cabrera. Today I'll be presenting my research on Latino farm workers in U.S. agriculture. We'll be focusing on labor, power, and inequality. Agriculture is often discussed as an economic success story. According to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, agriculture contributes roughly $1.5 trillion to the U.S. economy. That number sounds impressive, and it very much is, but sociology pushes us to ask different questions. Who benefits from this success and who doesn't? By using a sociological lens, I'm not just looking at individual workers or isolated cases. Instead, I'm examining how entire systems, policies, and historical forces shape the lives and opportunities of Latino farm workers. This topic matters because Latino farm workers are not a small or marginal group within agriculture. According to the USDA Economic Research Service, Latinos make up more than 77% of hired crop farm workers in the United States. Despite forming the backbone of agricultural labor, Latino farm workers remain largely excluded from leadership, land ownership, and policy influence. Sociologically, this signals a pattern of structural inequality, where power and opportunity are distributed unevenly, not because of ability or effort, but because of how the system itself is organized. My research examines how Latino farm workers sustain a critical industry while remaining excluded from authority and long-term stability. Laura Ann Minkoff-Zern explains that immigrant farmworkers often possess extensive agricultural knowledge, yet remain locked out of land ownership and decision making. This highlights a disconnect between labor and power. The purpose of this project is not to evaluate work ethic or motivation, but to understand the institutional barriers that restrict social mobility even for skilled and experienced workers. Thesis: Latino farm workers are essential to U.S. agriculture, but occupy a marginalized position due to historical exclusion, institutional racism, and structural barriers, which limit their social and economic and political mobility. My thesis argues that Latino farm workers are essential to U.S. agriculture, but remain structurally marginalized due to historical exclusion, institutional racism, and systemic barriers to advancement. Using C. Wright Mills' sociological imagination, we can connect individual struggles such as low wages, unsafe working conditions, and a lack of ownership to broader social and political systems. This perspective shifts responsibility away from individuals and towards institutions that shape opportunity. These research questions allow us to examine inequality across history, structure, and lived experience. Historically, one of the most influential policies was the Bracero program. Established under public law from 1942 to 1964, the program recruited millions of Mexican men to work in the U.S. agricultural system. While it benefited landowners, it denied workers access to citizenship, land ownership, and long-term security. This program normalized the idea that Latino labor should be temporary and disposable, a belief that continues to shape agricultural labor today. Structure: Agriculture, agriculture functions as a social structure, meaning it organizes people into roles with unequal access to resources. Within this structure, social stratification places Latino farm workers at the lowest level. Their social location, shaped by race, class, and immigration status, limits their bargaining power. According to the USDA, farm workers face low wages, unstable employment, and limited protections. Even when workers gain experience or skill, the structure itself prevents advancement, showing how inequality is reproduced at a systemic level. Theory and inequality. Several sociological theories help explain these patterns. Conflict theory argues that society is shaped by the competition over resources. In agriculture, the landowners and agribusinesses corporations maintain power by relying on the labor and subordinate group, being Latino farm workers, while restricting their access to ownership and authority. Symbolic intersectionalism highlights how inequality is reinforced through daily interactions. Workers are often labeled as unskilled or replaceable. Despite possessing deep agricultural knowledge, These stereotypes shape self-perception through sorry, these stereotypes shape self-perception through the looking glass self. While functionalism might argue that all roles serve a purpose, it fails to address power imbalance, making conflict theory the most effective framework here. Race and immigration. Race and immigration status intensify inequality. The USDA Economic Research Service estimates that about 42% of hired Latino crop workers lack legal work authorization. This legal precarity discourages farm workers from reporting abuse or unsafe conditions. They're fearful of either losing their jobs or being reported to ICE and being deported. Sociologically, this reflects institutional racism where policies disproportionately harm racialized groups. Through racialization, Latino farm workers are framed as temporary or expendable, reinforcing their subordinate position. Economics and culture. Inequality also operates through access to capital. Latino farm workers often lack economic capital, which limits land ownership. Their social capital rarely connects them to powerful networks, and at the same time their cultural capital, such as farming expertise and bilingual skills, is undervalued because of agriculture recognizes only certain forms of knowledge tied to whiteness and ownership. These barriers create blocked mobility, preventing advancement regardless of effort. Community and diaspora. Despite these challenges, Latino farm workers actively resist inequality. Through labor organizing and community networks, workers challenge hierarchies within agriculture. Diaspora studies show how maintaining cross-border ties strengthen identity and solidarity. These networks support collective action and advocacy, pushing towards social political equality, even within the restrictive systems. Conclusion. In conclusion, Latino farm workers are essential to U.S. agriculture, but remain structurally marginalized due to race, class, immigration status, and historical policy. By applying sociological concepts like social structures, stratification, and conflict theory, we see that individual struggles reflect systemic injustice. Addressing inequality requires structural change, expanding access to land, legal protection, and institutional power. Thank you so much. This is my reference list. Everything that is presented in the slides itself